Ruchit, good morning. Let's get your take as well in terms of the index and the kind of strategies you're looking at.
Yeah, hi, good morning. Overall, even we are expecting a positive momentum to continue in this market. Nifty in the last, if we observe the positional charts, then in almost, I think in last 7-8 trading sessions, the markets have been quite a bit range bound, except one of a trading day when it had moved higher from the levels of 8500 to 8620, 86.20 kind of levels. I think there is no reversal signal on the charts as of now. The momentum is quite bullish, and if you see the individual heavyweights, especially, the individual heavyweights are showing good positive momentum. You take it HDFC Limited, HDFC Bank, Reliance Industries, ICICI Bank. Those are the heavyweights, top 8 to 10 heavyweights. Rather than none of the stocks are in, except Infosys or so is showing much weakness or range bound kind of activity. So I think this positive momentum should continue. We are expecting on the higher side the markets to go up to 8800 levels, and hence even at current levels also we are advising short-term traders to remain on the buy side.
All right, Mohit, good morning. So I think we've got a general consensus on, which way the index is expected to move. We were talking yesterday as well, and I think you had a similar view in terms of the upside. Just talk us through what will be top of mind for you today.
Well, on the index, for starters, we're trading above levels of 8650, and now the stop loss can be moved higher from the levels of 8500 to 8550, and hopefully we get higher towards levels of 8800. The only one thing I don't like about this up move is that the bank nifty is not contributing heavily to it. Normally the bank nifty is a big contributor to any upside in the nifty, so hopefully we catch up on the bank nifty and trade higher today. There is some kind of outperformance, but for now continue trading long. There's a lot more action in the broader markets, and I have a few buy calls from them. To start off with, DCB Bank is one that's moved up well in trade yesterday, and this can move higher towards levels of 110. That's a buy with a stop loss at levels of 101. Also, Shrey Infra, like Ashu mentioned, is looking very good in the charts and can move higher towards levels of 80 to 82. That's a buy with a stop loss at 73.
Chandan, I was just thinking of a strategy which could actually make it pretty low risk, which is, we know that now for some of the bigger stocks, if there is any more buying, and we know the buying will continue because mutual funds are getting so much money, that you will have to buy from a strong hand, and many of them don't need to sell because the buyers know the price will go up. So could you play a strategy where you buy Nifty futures? You buy the futures because you, or buy individual futures like maybe let's say L&T or wherever is the maximum strength, and then just keep a put option with you. So, you've bought a cheap insurance because right now the premiums are very low on the puts, and go with individual and buy the put on the Nifty and buy individual futures where you know that if there's any more buying, the price spikes will be very significant. Just your thoughts on a strategy like that.
That's quite interesting strategy, and I think these kind of strategies are likely to work now because market has been moving up fast from last 5 series and rallied by more than 26-27% from the budget low level. So now it is clearly advisable to be with the long position with the hedging activity because this is the positive market. As of now, we are heading on the higher side with the positive flow, but if you get stuck, then if selling pressure or the profit booking cannot be rolled out. So already the traders are getting good money in their pocket or they are sitting on the good profit. So these kind of strategy are advisable to trade with the positive momentum with the limited risk or the hedging activity. So looking at this strategy, I have a couple of stocks which are top on my mind on the long side. First is the buy on Maruti. The stock has seen the strong run-up even on the last trading session of the July series. It is all set to start the fresh leg of rally towards 4,900 to 5,000 kind of level. It has seen a significant positive move making higher tops, higher bottom formation. So I think one can go with the Maruti and hedge with the Nifty 8600 put. Apart from that, I think in banking counter, HDFC Bank can perform better. The stock came out with the positive retail and now the stock came out with a positive result and now heading near to its lifetime uncharted territory. The stock is known as an outperformer in the broader market even after the volatile swing in the broader indices. So expecting this stock really to us 1340 to 1350 level. So one can also club the HDFC Bank and the put of the Nifty. And apart from that, I think now if Nifty has to move, the Reliance will contribute. Although the stock has been consolidating, but the way it is shifting its support on higher side towards 1000 and the fresh put writing is being witnessed at 1000 strike in the August series clearly indicates that 1000 is likely to act as a support, while on upside it can go towards 1065 to 1070 level. So these three heavyweights are on radar. SDFC Bank, Maruti and Reliance. Traders can go long on these stocks and trade with Nifty put to hedge the position.
So Chandan, that brings me to what's happening in NBFCs and banks, because we all know thousands of crores will have to be put out in IPOs to fund all these new banks, NBFCs getting into home finance, gold loan, X loan, Y loan. Could we have a safe trade if I, let's say, buy a Shriram Transport Finance, Muthoot Finance, if they are on FNO, or Manappuram and all these stocks, as the future long, and then I actually leave the puts on. So I buy futures on the long side and I buy puts on the short side. How would that work? Because it's almost given that these stocks will just continue to double, triple, just like we saw with real estate. I remember this Uptown, at one time had reached 5,000. EduComp had reached some 6,000. I don't know what it is at 12, 13 or something right now. So when money has to be raised, anything can happen.
Yes, that's true, and I do agree with your view and the logic. And I think the NBFC would be the flavor of the season as we are heading towards the pass out of the GST. And as per the recent momentum of last 3 to 4 series, most of the housing finance companies are heading built up of long position, and we are also witnessing sustainable and the markable open interest activity that clearly indicates that participants are rolling to their position. Even the rollover data is quite positive. With the positive roll course, the traders are carrying their long bet into the next series in the hope because most of these stocks can really buy 10 to 15% in next couple of weeks. So looking at the housing finance company or the finance company, we have positive view on the Divan Housing Finance. The stock has been moving upwards, although it is having the low beta, so moves slowly, but making its positive trend on the counter. Talking about the other stock like Shriram Transport Finance, although the stock has given a V-shaped recovery, but now it will consolidate and then move on higher side. Talking about the LIC Housing Finance, the stock has been consolidating and taking multiple support near to 500 zone. So if someone is looking for the positive view on the housing finance company and wanted to hedge the same, then can go along with LIC Housing Finance, buy LIC Housing Finance near to 500 zone and buy 500 protective put. In that case, one has to pay or one has to bear the risk of only 2.5 to 3%. And if the stock rallies, then one can get the benefit. And I think paying the 3% cost and getting safe trade is worth trading in the equity market when already we have rallied well and the risk reward ratio is not favoring in terms of bull side. So I think the put hedge kind of condition would be the better in terms of trading bet. And interestingly, the LIC Housing Finance has made the new lifetime high in this series. And if it manages to hold 500 levels in next couple of trading sessions, then definitely the stock can head towards 545 to 560 kind of level. So one can go with the LIC Housing put by buying future and the buying 500 put. Talking about the other stocks which you have discussed, like Manappuram Finance and Muthoot Finance, these stocks are not in FNO segment. Right now we have 172 FNO stocks and 10 index future. So if you look at the price pattern of the Manappuram Finance, we are quite positive. On last week, it made a narrow range near to its lifetime high. It looks quite strong. Once it manages to hold 83, then I think 95 to 100 levels cannot be ruled out. But here one has to trade in the delivery. And I think those who are looking for the positional or the investment point of view can definitely look at the counter for 25 to 30% return. And second counter, as you discussed, our Muthoot Finance, we are also comfortable. We are recommending from last 3 to 4 trading session. It has made a pole and flag pattern until it holds about 280, 290 kind of zone. The stock has potential to move towards 340 to 350 level. So the flavor would be the housing finance company for this season, and I think LIC Housing Finance, Divan Housing Finance, Bajaj Finance, that was the SKS, Bharat Finance, that was the SKS Microfinance earlier, would be the best pick, while Manappuram and Muthoot would be the best counter in the non-FNO segment.
All right, so a whole host of strategies that we're looking at there in the NBFC space. Ruchit, let's talk about some of the auto counters as well. I noticed you have M&M on your list, and also want to check with you because we saw a nice move on some of those names yesterday. Aisha was up 4%. Maruti started to look good as well.
So basically, if you first see the Nifty Auto Index, then there is a good high top high bottom structure on Nifty Auto Index. The index is almost trading at is trading at its all-time high levels, and even in recent sideways movement in this market in last 8 to 10 trading sessions, we have seen this index continuously moving higher. Stock specific, we are expecting a positive momentum in stocks such as Eicher Motors, Bajaj Auto, and those levels. We are quite positive on M&M. M&M at current levels is also giving a good risk-reward ratio to be on the long side. If you just observe, then recently the stock had given a breakout of a 1.5 years of consolidation phase, and even after breakout, the stock again is started consolidating. So I think there's a formation of a bullish flag pattern on the daily charts. Looking at the volumes which are good on the breakout, we are expecting this positive momentum to continue after this last 7-8 days of sideways pattern in which this flag pattern has been formed. We are expecting a target of 1565. So at current levels, one can go long with stop loss below 1422.
Okay. Well, so we've got a couple of earnings that we're watching out for today. Let's talk about L&T. How's that looking on the charts?
Well, L&T is looking okay. It's corrected in yesterday's day in trade, but as long as we're holding above 1550, the bias still is bullish because that's a strong support zone. It's formed kind of a nice sideways range there. So 1550 is a strong support zone, and as long as we trade above that, one should continue holding longs if they are in L&T. Fresh buys not yet because we want to break out above levels of 1600, but for now you can continue holding those longs. Talking about earnings, one stock that's actually looking good was Eicher Motors that even you spoke about. It's trading at near all-time highs, and this can head towards levels of 22,000 pretty easily in the coming few days. So that's a buy with a stop loss at 20,800 for targets of 22,000.
All right, let's put up Maruti, interesting stock. Also Castrol, yesterday we spoke to the management. What's very interesting is that they reached 70,000 outlets. And remember, Castrol is actually, so Maruti is looking beautiful. And what's interesting with Castrol is just a cash generating machine. And essentially, they said in the next year or two, they'll actually put out many other products in the British petroleum pipeline. So that may be very interesting for that stock. Coromandel, can we get that one? That's also been very, very solid. Balkrishna, they actually do retreated tires. So Coromandel is actually not looking that great, but Balkrishna is looking very good at the moment. I'll also take a smaller ones. Indian Hume Pipe, as you know, it ran into a freeze yesterday, but chart's been very clean. And Indian Motor Parts, again, as you can see now, it's starting to do the gap up opening. So, charts are very good. Indian Motor Parts, we'll just put that one up. And okay, and I'll just take one more. That would Jeevan. So, don't be surprised because if they're going to raise money, it may, 128%. So just hold that chart. This was a new IPO, right, Abha?
Relatively, yes.
Yes. So actually, if I was the investment banker, I'm not talking about Ujjivan. Generally, the promoter would have fired me because he would have said, "Why did you underprice the IPO? You're supposed to get me the best price." Finally, remember, you don't pay the investment banker, the promoter does. So the IPO will always be priced in the benefit of the promoter. So two things happened. Either the IPO was priced low so that it could rise and so that it could continue to rise. So anyway, what I'm saying is that irrespective of what we think, they're overpriced or underpriced or they don't have any business, they will continue to run up. That's the scenario. Ruchit, if you were following some of the names I've mentioned, any thoughts?
See, Ujjivan is a newly listed company, so technically there's no much history to data to look at. But definitely post-listing, the stock has been continuously moving higher. Even if we see comparative volumes post-listing, then even at current levels, we are seeing that up move is being supported by good volume. So this clearly indicates that the fresh buying is going on in the stock even at current levels. So I think in near term or maybe in short to medium term, the stock can continue to do well on the higher side. Apart from the other names which you just took, Castrol is looking quite positive. The stock after a consolidation phase have now again started forming this higher tops and higher bottom pattern. Also a falling trend line breakout has been given in this recent up move of last few days. So I think the stock still has a good potential on the higher side. On the upside, the short term targets are seen around 468 kind of things. So I think the stock could give another 10-12% returns in short term. Eicher Motors is likely to continue to do well. The stock has has resumed its uptrend which was earlier there. So I think on the higher side, the stock could give another 4 to 5% in a day or two itself. So I think Eicher Motors, Castrol would be the top picks among the stocks. Balkrishna Industries, again, if you take this, even this, the stock is looking quite interesting. The stock was in a consolidation phase since last many months. Again, all the volumes are a bit lower on this stock. Would like to see some good volumes coming in a day or two if the stock has to continue its positive momentum. 780, 785 kind of levels could be seen, but again needs to look at the volumes again. If good volumes come in, then I think the stock has potential again to rally up to its all-time high of 830 odd levels also.
All right, let's take a very quick break. We'll come back with more of that stock talk in just a moment. You're with us here on Street Smart, and we're still talking about the specific stocks that we're watching out for as we head into pre-open today, counting down there. So, Ruchit, let's get your take as well on the key earnings we're watching out for. L&T, ICICI Bank, some of the names on our radar today.
L&T, I think the overall trend, broader trend looks quite positive. Even after last quarter results came out, we saw that the stock gapped up and post that it has been continuously moving higher. So I think the stock should continue to do well, although near-term resistance, if we observe the positional chart, then is coming around 1612, 1615 kind of levels. If the stock manages to take out those 1612 resistance in today's session, then I think the upside momentum would resume, and about 1705 is the next resistance where the stock could head towards. So I think one should clearly trade with positive bias in L&T at even from current levels.
All right, so that's L&T. Chandan, given that, we're also tracking, a new series and so forth, I just want to get a sense of, how the financials are looking when it comes to the banking names. We've already started to see a spate of numbers. We're expecting some of the other heavyweights to report soon, both on the public and private sector side.
Yes, especially talking about the Bank Nifty. Bank Nifty outperformed the broader market. Nifty was up by around 4.5% in the last series, but Bank Nifty was up by around 6.5%. And Bank Nifty has been outperforming the Nifty index from last 5 consecutive months. And I think if market has to move up, then Bank Nifty has to hold above 19,000 to start the fresh leg of rally towards 19,300 to 19,500 zone. And the interesting fact is that for most part of the July series, the Bank Nifty was consolidating and struggling near to 19,000. And finally, after the flirting of a couple of days, it managed to close above 19,000, and that is a positive sign for a bull trend in the Bank Nifty index. Now, talking about the rollover, we have seen 70% rollover in the Bank Nifty with positive rollovers, and the rollover in Bank Nifty is better than the Nifty rollover of 63.5%. So the higher roll with positive trend clearly indicates that banking counters may extend their rally. Traders are carrying their long position in the hope that this positive move can extend in the beginning of the next series. So I think this momentum may continue. Now, talking about the selective banking counter, we have seen the strong rally in the Yes Bank. The stock was up by around 10 to 11% in the last series, and now continuously making higher tops, higher bottom, and hovering near to its lifetime high territory. I think the stock has potential to move up by 1300 levels in this coming week because of the positive trend, and huge shorts got also stuck, and that short covering also may drive the rally on the higher side. Talking about the other counters in the private bank, IndusInd Bank also looks quite attractive. The stock is trading near to lifetime high, and I think all these stocks which are trading near to lifetime high has the potential to move by 5 to 7%, including Yes Bank, IndusInd Bank, and Axis Bank. And now talking about the Axis Bank, this stock has been consolidating. I think here we may see some consolidation. 560 is likely to act as an immediate hurdle. Holding above that only may change the immediate trend. In PSU banks, SBI has managed to close near to 230. It is hurdle near to 233, and above that only it can start the fresh move towards 245 zone. So I think these selective private banks are likely to perform better than the PSU zone.
Okay, so that's Chandan's take on some of those banking majors. The pre-open session's underway, and it's pretty quiet, a little divergent on the two indices. We'll wait and see how that evens out. But in terms of stock action, a bit of an uptick coming in on a Maruti this morning, but most of the others continue to trend kind of steady at this point. I haven't seen too much of a move either way on some of those counters.
So ICICI Bank is what I think we'll focus on. See, the markets have not been too great with digesting information that they're surprised with. So as long as ICICI Bank is on track, we shouldn't have an issue. Can you look at Reliance and see if anything is happening on that stock? And Lawson and Tubro also, since there are earnings, those stocks. So again, we can look at the opening quote, but I think overall the market strength still remains on the upside. I'll just take a couple more stocks. RPG Life Sciences, if we can just bring that one up. And also Everest Canto. We'll take a look at TCI, which is Transport Corporation of India. All cargo. Let's bring the stocks in if we can now. Rashmita. And TCI Finance. Dishman Pharmaceuticals. After a long time, I've seen a pretty good chart out there. We'll take a look at that one. And Kokoyu Camlin. If you can bring that one up also. So we'll put up all those charts, and as you can see, Dishman seems to be certainly in a breakout. Still a long way to go, but it started the move. All cargo, of course, very smooth anyway. So you'll have to decide between stocks breaking out and stocks which are already on an upside momentum, because you've got every variety out there. So if you're day trading, then you may want to go with stocks breaking out. But if you're RPG, just look at the chart; it's beautiful. And if you're doing a longer term trade, then you go with a nice trend. You don't have to wait for a breakout stock to get it. What your thoughts?
Well, yeah, a few of the names that you've taken do look good in the charts, especially TCI. It's trading close to all-time. It's actually trading at all-time highs, given a fresh breakout yesterday. This could head higher towards levels of 390. It's a buy with a stop loss at levels of 362. Also, Everest Canto is looking good in the charts and can move higher to levels of maybe 26 next. So that's a buy. A good stop loss here would be levels of 2150. Lastly, All Cargo is also looking good in the charts. Has seen a good up move yesterday. It's trading close to all-time highs. This can head towards levels of 215. This is a buy with a stop loss at 198.
Ruchit, do you have any of those names, on your radar, or have you taken a look at any of those charts lately?
Yeah, among this, Dishman Pharma is looking quite interesting. If you observe the weekly charts, then the stock has exactly taken support near its weekly 89 EMA. And the previous resistance, which was there around 125, that resistance have now become a support. So from those 125 support, the stock has again moved higher. So I think there's a good potential for further up move in the near term. If you observe last 8 to 9 trading sessions, again the volumes have started coming in, which could lead this stock higher towards 168, 170 kind of range in short term. So I think Dishman Pharma is one of the stock which I'm looking at. Apart from that, All Cargo is also looking quite interesting. The stock is continuously forming this high tops and high bottom, and I think that the all-time high was around 215 in this stock. The stock, I think, would reach those levels, and if good volumes coming, if good volumes continue, then the stock could move higher from those levels also.
Okay, Siddharth Sidani also joining us this morning. Siddharth, let's talk about some of those banking earnings with PNB yesterday. Watching out for ICICI today, that's the big one. What are you expecting from those numbers?
Well, PNB, if we talk about PNB was a little bit of a mess in some ends, but what we believe is ICICI Bank also may disappoint in terms of asset quality is concerned. Although we are expecting some kind of a good numbers coming in terms of we expect that slippages can be stopped from here on. There is not incremental big growth in terms of slippages are concerned, but what we believe is we'll wait and watch for the results. But overall in the banking sector, yes, the PSU banking space have rallied, I think, more than what meets the eye. On the back of recapitalization, so and so forth, I think the stocks have moved. But in terms of numbers are concerned, I don't think there is much of a change in terms of numbers are concerned. And altogether, the recognition factor or the EQM factor of RBI, the norm of RBI, I think that is there till March 2017. So there can be misses in terms of numbers for any of the PSU bank going forward.
All right, three more stocks I wanted to put up. Muthoot Finance, L&T Financial Holdings, and Manappuram. Let's take a look at how all these three have performed. So Muthoot seems to have started another rise, if I may. But again, as I said, don't be surprised. This is going to pretty much play out like sugar. The only difference with sugar is there was no IPOs in sugar, so there's no chance of new paper supply. Here, of course, you will see a tsunami of paper coming in, as when I say paper, new stock issues. And L&T Finance, actually, maybe even a day trade, it's just simply leaped. What, your thoughts?
Well, both of them are looking good in the charts. But L&T Finance can move higher towards levels of 92 to 94. That's a buy with a stop loss at levels of 86. Also, Muthoot Finance is looking good in the charts and can move higher towards levels of 335 next. So that's a buy with a stop loss at levels of 312. As far as Manappuram goes, it's also looking good in the charts, though the other two are looking better. But Manappuram can rise towards levels of 87. That's a buy with a stop loss at levels of 78.
Okay, I'm just checking if we've got some of the pre-open quotes coming in. Just flat today at this point. We've got on the upside an iShares that continues to look good on those numbers. Adani, Z, some of the other names. L&T ahead of numbers, also holding strong. BPCL, Power Grid, some of these names. Ruchit, in fact, I think, pardon me, I think Chandan Power Grid is on your list as well. So if I could just get you to run through that strategy and any other strategies you'd like to touch upon before opening.
Yes, talking about the trading ideas, we have seen the strong momentum in the market, and I think if market consolidates, the stock specific action is likely to continue for next couple of trading sessions. Especially talking about the Power Grid, the stock is continuously moving upwards and making higher tops, higher bottom formation. Just couple of days back, it has given the fresh weekly or the monthly or the yearly breakout. Earlier in 2007, it made high near to 168 half, and now recently it has given the breakout. So the breakout of last 8 to 10 years has given the fresh rally and the fresh hope for the counter to move towards 200 levels on the positional basis. But on immediate trading basis, I am recommending to go long with a stop loss of 172 for an up move towards 186. The stock looks quite strong. It has given the consolidation breakout on the daily chart with rising volume and the open interest activity. So it can extend towards 186. Apart from that, I have positive view on now Sun TV. Earlier, the stock used to find hurdle near to 436, 439 zone, and many times it corrected by around 15 to 20% from those hurdle area. But now the way it has managed to cross that hurdle area, the stock may see a sharp short covering move, which may even lead the stock towards 465 to 470 zone. So one can trade in Sun TV on long side by putting a stop loss of 437 for the higher target. Talking about the finance company, we have positive view on Manappuram, Muthoot Finance, and I have trading call on L&T Finance also. L&T Housing Finance has been moving upwards from last 5 series, and recently it has given the breakout from its supply trend line. It has surpassed the immediate hurdle of 80-82 zone, and holding above the same may take it to 92 and then 100 level. So recommending to buy on L&T Finance on any small decline with a stop loss of 84 for target of 92 and then higher levels. And the last trading call, which is on the negative side, is buy IDBI put. The stock has failed to surpass its multiple hurdle of 76-77 zone and started to decline from last 4 to 5 trading session with built up of short position. We are also witnessing call writing at 75 strike, which also supports our negative sense on the counter. So one can trade with IDBI 70 put, give the stop loss of 1.5 and expecting this put to move to a 6.5 to 7 rupees.
So it's interesting, Chandan, you mentioned the put, because I thought the bank unions wanted to go on a strike today because they don't like IDBI's privatization and they don't like the State Bank of Mysore or whoever else joining the State Bank. Well, there's always a simple option, right? You quit the job, do something else. But no, all of us have to, suffer this stuff. So we'll live with it. Can we just bring up the Asian markets, because we may be getting some indications as to how our opening is going to look. Can we bring up Singapore? I don't know if I read that correctly. I think it was down. Okay, let's look at Hang Seng then. And let's look at Nikkei, because the Bank of Japan is going to say something. It's not like the Bank of Japan sits in the middle of the ocean, so I'm sure they've spoken to Mr. Abe. And since he's already given the stimulus, I can't imagine these guys are going to do anything different at the moment. At least that's how it seems. And maybe the Nikkei is showing it. So that stimulus did nothing to the Nikkei. It basically went back to where it started from. So nothing major to look for in terms of significant pointers towards our own markets.
Okay, counting down, for 3.5 minutes more to go. Ruchit, I think you've also got Britannia on your list today, so let me just get that call from you as well.
Yeah, Britannia, if you see, then it had completed its impulsive up move in August 2015. Since then, last 1 year, the stock was trading in a falling channel. Even now, the breakout is not there out of the channel, but looking at the volumes which have recently pined out in this recent up move, so we are anticipating this breakout of this 1 years of falling channel. So if the stock gives a breakout from this falling channel, then definitely the trend would move higher, and I think the stock has then potential to move up to 3096 kind of levels. So even at current levels, we are recommending our clients to go long on Britannia. Keep a stop loss below 2780, which was the recent low, for target of 3096.
All right. Mohit, any top strategies this morning?
Well, Maruti that we spoke about is again trading at near all-time highs, and looking at it on the charts, we could see levels of 4,900 to even 5,000 in the coming few months. So that's a buy. A good stop loss here would be levels of 4,675. And also on the other side, I like stocks like Escort. It's looking good in the charts. You could head higher towards levels of 265, 270 very easily. So that's a buy with a stop loss at levels of 255.
Can we just bring up Shriram City or something that way? Shriram Transport Finance or City Union Finance. If you have that one, and also that Shriram City Union Finance, and also Shriram Transport Finance, and also Muthoot, if you can just put it before the market. Just today's, do we have those pre-opening quotes? Then that'll be great if you can put on those. And then Corporation Bank is another one you may want to just keep. Shriram City, Muthoot, and Corporation Bank. So it's going to be financial services all over the place. So just keep watching for that particular place, and beautiful trends, at least for now.
All right, counting down to open now, just about a minute to go. It's quiet today, fresh day for new series. And we did see a nice close yesterday on settlement, but today indicators are that we may be steady or just a touch weak perhaps. But let's see how things shape up in the next minute or so. No major move on either side. We're still watching out for some earnings. Aisha on a reaction to a good set of numbers, and also ICICI and L&T, two of the big ones that we will be keeping in mind today going forward. Lots and lots of mid-caps, of course, that continue to report. So I think Hexaware is one that we should watch out for as well. We've also got Ad Labs, Gujarat Alkalis, L&T Infotech we've been talking about this morning, a couple of the other names, GSFC, KCB Sugar, Muthoot Finance, another one that's been on everyone's list, reported earnings, net interest income up 29%, and write-offs at just about 17 crores versus over 100 crores. So those are a couple of the counters. See it as well. Revenues are very, very quiet. And Blue Dart, again, kind of flat this time around for a Blue Dart as well. So those are a few of the mid-cap earnings or reactions that we can also anticipate today going forward. All right, let's pull up some of those quotes for you. We've got on your screens, ICICI Bank quiet ahead of numbers, index absolutely flat today, just with a touch of a negative bias, but just slightly. L&T is up about 1%, that's just ahead of numbers today. We've got Bosch continuing its up move by about 1%. We've also got Axis that's looking good, up about 1% right now. Tata Steel, Indusin, Tech Mahindra, a couple of the other names there. I don't see too much traction on Maruti this morning. I did see an uptick yesterday, but today it's quietened down. So nothing much happening there. Or in any of the other active names from yesterday either, like an ITC for instance. Tex continues to be quiet. Reliance is still down 0.5%. Power Grid actually is open lower. Bharti also cooling off today, and BHEL is down as well over 1%. Earnings reactions coming in already on Gujarat Alkalis. That's the one that's just off the block, moving already on the back of earnings. Let's also pull up, okay, we've got breaking news as well on your screen. The Bank of Japan has eased monetary policy further. They're going to increase the buying of ETFs. That's what they've said. Pull up the Nikkei on your screen. Let's see how it's reacting. And we're just waiting for more details on that as well. Remember, we had a lot of a huge stimulus that was announced earlier this week, which was more along the fiscal plan. So everyone was still waiting to see what kind of boost would come from the monetary side. And what we've heard so far is that they're going to continue to buy ETFs, and just trying to get a sense of what else they've got planned, because the headlines coming in so far are that they have eased monetary policy further.
Well, our wonders will never cease. Because 1/3 of all the ETFs are actually already owned by the Bank of Japan. Maybe the Tokyo stock market will be owned by them now, because the way they stimulate the market is they go ahead and buy more exchange traded funds. That's a highly unusual way for a central bank, because what central banks do to put liquidity into the market is to buy their own bonds back. So when they buy the bonds back, cash goes into the market. But they're not doing that. Their stimulus is, forget about the bonds, we'll leave the bonds there. What we will do is we'll just go and buy more exchange traded funds. So in a way, the Nikkei may not have, so yeah, what is happening then is, of course, the yen starts to fall. And one of the major concerns has been the yen's appreciation. So that's what the Bank of Japan is trying to stop. But it's rather surprising that they further eased monetary policy. So as you can see, the yen's collapsing pretty quick.
And I mean, we're still waiting to see what else. I mean, it's okay to say we're easing it, but I'm not getting a sense of what else they're doing at Ashu. The interest rates are unchanged.
Right. So, Abba, basically what they do is whenever the Bank of Japan announces easing, they essentially say we will go and buy exchange traded funds. So that is their quantitative easing to speak of. But they don't do the traditional stuff which the Americans do, or even our own central banks do, which is buy the bonds back and put the cash in the market. So they're not putting cash in the market. And I'll tell you why they're not putting the cash. Because if they put the cash in the market, well, the market doesn't need money anyway. So what they're doing is they're going straight away and buying exchange traded funds with the hope that the stock prices rise up. But can we look at the Nikkei and see if the stock prices are rising up? Because the market stopped reacting. I mean, you got the Nikkei itself? Yeah, so let's take a look and see. So hardly anything.
Reaction, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of talk about whether this is even going to be enough now, given the kind of slowdown we've seen, and the fact that the aggressive stimulus in the past couple of years really hasn't worked yet, and we haven't seen that reflected in any kind of data either. So perhaps markets very skeptical at this point, Ashu. I mean, they were probably also hoping for some amount of a rate cut, maybe even a small one, but that's not come through at all. I mean, they can't really go much lower on those rates anyway. That has its own implications. But yeah, markets definitely not enthused.
So I just wanted to walk through what the Bank of Japan is trying to do. See, usually when the US Federal Reserve or the Reserve Bank of India tries to put the money out, remember what they do. They go ahead and buy their own bonds out. But who has the bonds? You and I don't have Government of India bonds. Maybe some of us do. They actually leave the money with the banks have it. So the banks give them back the bonds and get the cash. And then the banks go around distributing the cash, which means giving more credit. But now the Japanese don't need any credit, so they have to use something very innovative. So what they're doing is they are going out there and they're putting the money right in the hands of individuals in Japan, because when they buy the exchange traded fund, the money doesn't go to a bank, the money does not go to any institution, it goes straight into the hands of ordinary Japanese people, because that's what exchange traded funds are held by. So that's why their policy is very different from the quantitative easing we see in the US. But it's obvious that it doesn't really have an impact, and it doesn't seem to do anything, except maybe the yen falls a little bit.
All right. Let's take a look at some of the other Asia screens as well, see if there's any reaction there. Unlikely, but let's just pull them up as well and just take a look. Okay, there are also a few more updates coming in. No change to the amount of JGB buying. Core CPI expected at plus 0.1%. The Nikkei has moved into positive territory, Ashu, as we speak. So at least some respite there.
Saved by the bell. Let me just mention this, See, if you look at the traders, there's a reason why they keep buying the yen. See, where in the world can you get money for free and then you can bring it to India and just park it at 7%? I mean, it's a straight arbitrage. So if let's say I was a pharmaceutical company sitting in Japan, I can simply borrow at negative interest rates and come to India and get 7%. I have a 7% arbitrage. That's amazing. So that's the reason there is no chance the yen will go down, because every time they do this, people just buy more yen because it's so cheap.
Okay. That's the big news on the BOJ, and we'll continue to track that for you. Our own markets, let's see if there's any reaction coming in there. This morning, we've still got, I think, a fairly steady session. No reaction so far on our markets either of that stimulus that's been announced there. And we'll try and get you some FI voices shortly to understand what they're making of it as well. But this is what we were talking about earlier in the week, Ashu. There's been all kinds of news, but markets, in fact, global equity seem to be pretty set now where they are, and they're not being shaken easily.
There are two things that we have to see. Essentially, what is this? What if